Hey guys. So, did you learn something from that video? Okay, good. So, this is Keagan. Keagan's in fifth grade. How many of you know Keagan? Okay. Did you know that Keagan was diabetic? So, we're going to have Keagan tell you what it was like when he first found out, just not too very long ago, that he was a diabetic. And since Keagan and I are 6 feet apart, we're going to unmask, okay? All right, Keagan, tell us.
So whenever I first got diagnosed, I kind of felt tired, sick all the time, and lack of water. So every night I always had to go to the bathroom. I thought it was just because I was drinking more water, so that happened for another week. So then football started, and first day of practice, we did everything. I felt a little emotional doing warm-ups, like crying, feeling like I couldn't do it. So then whenever we did hitting drills, as soon as I got hit, I kind of felt where my belly hurt, where it felt like it was being collapsed, sort of. So then I took a timeout where I kind of toppled over like this. So then my parents kind of noticed that. So then they took me on the sideline and they asked me if it hurt high or low, and I said low, and that's a good thing. So then I just kind of took my pads off, went home, took a nap, and then the very next day we had an appointment with a doctor. So then we did a finger prick and a urine test. They had me do the urine test to see how much sugar was in my pee. So then, whenever they said that I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, they sent us over to Kansas City to make sure. So then we drove all the way to Kansas City. We went to Children's Versus. We did a finger prick and another urine test. Same thing happened, there was a lot of sugar. And whenever we first went to the first doctor, my blood sugar was 309, which is high, really high. So then whenever we went to Kansas City, my blood sugar was dropping a little bit, and I was 220, I'm pretty sure. So then we waited for a bit, and whenever we came in, they had me do an IV on my So then we had the IV. They told me what my blood sugar was, and I came down. I was 161, so that's a little better, way better than high. So then they did a lot of test results. They had me do another urine test. Then they came back and they told me that I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes again, for the second time. So then they made us watch a tutorial on how to deal with type 1 diabetes. Then they gave me Atlantis, which is insulin for a night to help you steady out. And then they gave me aloud to just kind of steady my blood sugar out a little bit more. Then we went home. Then we stayed at the hotel. Then we had to get our insurance to get some finger pricks, syringes, which is a needle, and some pens, insulin pens. So then we drove home, and we had to make a pit stop to get some gas. So we checked my blood sugar, and I was 240, which is whenever you take a ketone test. And ketone test is where you pee on a stick, and if it's light, pale, then it's a trace. And if it's purple, then you have some ketones. So I did that in the bathroom, and I told my dad that I had purple ketones, which is a lot, well, some ketones. So then they told me to drink some water to kind of pee those ketones out. So then I kind of went down. My dad gave me a shot in the arm to steady me out even more. So then we went all the way home, and I had a low blood sugar of 75, and then now we're here now.
Okay, so that is a lot to learn in a little tiny amount of time, isn't it? So Keagan and his family have had to absorb all this information. So Keagan comes in at school, and before breakfast he has to figure out what he's going to eat. Before lunch he has to figure out how many carbs he's going to have. Before dinner, if we have class parties, Keagan tell us about what we have to do for the class party.
For example, whenever we had our super social, I knew that there was going to be snacks and a fall party or something like that. So then I took a glance over at the table and I kind of made out some cookies, chips, normal party things. So then I told Nurse Missy how much carbs I told Nurse Missy what they were, and she looked the carbs up for everything, and we came up to about 83, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah. So then we figured me, and we dosed me, and I didn't know that we didn't have it yet. We were just doing the super social. Then I bought some snacks to kind of not make me crash, so just kind of steady me out. So then we had dodgeball over here, and my blood sugar was pretty steady through that. Then we came back to our classroom, and then it was time for the fall party. So real quick, I went down to Nurse Missy's, and we took a dose. And then I waited until it happened. And then we got to play and eat, and then, yeah.
So the point Keagan's making is everything that he eats, he has to think about. And he has to consider how many carbs it has and how much insulin he needs to take care of those carbs. Does that make sense? So it's not like just going to a party and stuffing cupcakes and potato chips in your mouth. You guys can do that. Keagan can't just automatically go grab food and stick it in his mouth. He's got to really think about it first. Okay? So, why don't you show us, Keagan, what's in your box, what we have to do every day. Keagan comes in, like I said, before breakfast, and we figure his carbs. He's got what the video talked about. It's a Dexcom monitor. Can you show that? So that sticks on his stomach, and there's a little needle that goes inside, and it constantly monitors his blood glucose. So that will send a message to his phone, and it sends it to his parents' phone, and I'm lucky enough that I can have it on my phone as well, so I can track it. So if he is too low or too high, it sends an alarm, so we all know. So Keagan comes in, and we don't have to do finger sticks now since he's got that monitor, unless his blood sugar is a little strange. Sometimes we'll go ahead and check it with a finger stick, but we'll do that. And he'll bring his breakfast or his lunch in, and we count how many carbs are in each thing. So if he has, say, biscuits and gravy, that's a lot of carbs. If he has eggs and sausage, no, that's a freebie. But we figure that out. Then we figure out how much his blood sugar is and how much insulin he's going to need for that. Okay? So when he has to have a dose of insulin, he gets his insulin pen out. And it's got a dial on there. He puts a new needle on it, and we check it, and we dose that much insulin for that point in time. Now, he's got needles that he attaches on there. If he's too low, he can either do a couple of things. He can do snacks. We have peanut butter crackers or fruit snacks, things like that.
We also have these glucose tablets. You can take 4 of them for 15 carbs. Oh yeah, and whenever you take a snack, you have to wait 15 minutes before you eat another snack to get you up. So these are just some fast-acting glucose tablets.
And you heard him talking about ketones in the urine. If his blood sugar gets over a certain amount, which for him is 240, then he has to do a urine test and check his ketones. And there are certain things that he has to do if there are ketones in the urine. So it's all a lot of work, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of work. This is that scale that I was talking to you about. So right here, that my finger's above is trace, and then I think it was about right here whenever I took the urine test.
So that's a lot of ketones. All right. Do you guys have any questions for Keagan? Anybody? Okay. So Thanksgiving's coming up. How many of you are looking forward to pumpkin pie and cream? Maybe some apple cobbler? Yeah. How about Keagan? What's Keagan think about Thanksgiving?
A little nervous, also excited as you guys. I know that Thanksgiving is going to be different this year because of the diabetes. So cornbread's probably going to have a lot of carbs, so probably going to have a little less than that, and going to be hard to fit pumpkin pie in there like you guys. So yeah, it's just going to be a lot of carbs, a lot of figuring out what goes in for.
Keagan, what are some things that you want people to know about being a diabetic? If you have an emergency, what can you tell people that they can do for you if you get in trouble?
So usually diabetics have this wrist bracelet that tells people it's supposed to tell people that they have diabetes. So if you're like, for instance, if you're older and you're driving on the road and your blood sugar's low, and say you crash or something, police will come, they'll check your wrists, smell your breath. So if you have dirty breath, that either means that you're high most of the time. So they would check your bracelet to them. If they could see that you have a bracelet, then they would fingerprint you and see what your blood sugar is. So if you're low, you would probably have a snap most of the time, depending on if you tried to crash yourself to get something like hot chocolate. We tried that for a day one time. So we gave me a couple of units to crash me. That was not just an instant slow, that was to crash me so I can have hot chocolate. So if you're low, then you can, like I said, you can have these fast-acting glucose tablets, or you can have fruit snack, candy, or peanut butter crackers. Say if you're high, that's whenever you'll have to take, one thing. Say you're super low, like a 23. That's whenever you have to get this guy out. And it's a glucagon, and it has some high sugar and the needle or the medicine, and you stick that in your wherever you need an injection, and it brings your blood sugar up to steady you out.
You guys have seen the EpiPens? That's kind of like that.
Yeah.
So we would, if Keagan was low, we would stab him with that. Okay?
But that's first.
It would be a really, really low, and we would probably call parents and an ambulance if he got that low and I had to give that.
So say you're high, for instance, like I was the second time, 228. That's whenever you would have. So if you're diabetic, you have a chart that your doctor brings out for you to tell you how much insulin you give for what blood sugar is. Mine is my unit is at 220. That's whenever I count as a high. That's whenever I would give myself some insulin or have an adult or a nurse to give me insulin. So that's whenever you would put the needle on that's whenever you put the syringe on the pen. And then you stick in your belly, arm, lower back, or sometimes your hip. So whenever you give yourself insulin, you have to know how much insulin you give yourself, and that's whenever I look at my chart for 220. So then that would just kind of steady me out to a good 124, 113, something like that.
So the thing about insulin, guys, there's a very, very thin line on what is enough or what's too much. So it is critical that we need you guys to understand that if Keagan's in the nurse's office and he's working with me or Miss Diana, give us some time. because what we're doing is actually very, very important, okay? It makes it real hard if we get interrupted. We know you're there, we know you need help too, but it is so important that we focus and get the numbers right when we're figuring his insulin, because too little would make his blood sugar go really high, or not enough. You know, he's gonna just stay at that high level and maybe start having ketones. But if we give too much, we could drop him into a very, very critical low, and too much insulin can actually kill you. So we need to be very precise, okay? All right, any questions on any of that? Yes? What's the best food to have if you have low glucose?
What they recommend is a fruit snack, because that's about carbs, and that's what they recommend you having for a low.
That's a good question, thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
If you have a high blood sugar,
so if you have a high blood sugar, we're going to verify it with the finger stick, and then Keagan's going to be able to dose with his pen. Okay. So, as you can see, this is not something that just kind of comes and then goes away. This is going to be something that Keagan has to do the rest of his life. He can still play football. He still plays video games. He still goes to friends' houses, and he still has snacks. But he just has to be very, very careful and pay attention to what he's doing. Okay? Keagan, do you have anything else you want to tell these guys?
Do you guys think it would be pretty hard to have diabetes at this age? Yeah, I think it would too, because it is a little bit. For kids that get type 1 diabetes a little bit at lower age, it's a little bit easier for them because they don't really know what a normal life is for them. Only 10% of the kids get type 1 diabetes. 90% of people that have diabetes is type 2. So type 1 is more of the
Juvenile.
Yeah.
Juvenile onset diabetes.
That's pretty much all I have to cover.
All right, thank you guys.